Flammerschale Fokusstrategie, Dienstag, 18. Januar 2022. There exists another press release, the case of Dusko Tadic from 14 July 1997. The 14th of July 1997. Dusko Tadic sentenced to 20 years imprisonment. Today, Monday, 14 July 1997, Trial Chamber 2 consisting of Judge Gabriel Kirk MacDonald, in brackets, presiding, close brackets, Judge Ninian Stephen and Judge Lal Chand Fora, handed down its sentencing judgment of Dusko Tadic. Background. On 7 May 1997, Dusko Tadic was found guilty of crimes against humanity. So, crimes against humanity, in brackets, on 6 counts. And of violations of the laws of or customs of war. In brackets, on 5 counts. Close brackets. The sentencing judgment recalls that the crimes consisted of killings, beatings, and forced transfer by Dusko Tadic as a principal or as an accessory, as well as his participation in the attack on the town of Kozarac in Opština Prijedor in northwestern Bosnia. The sentences, Trial Chamber 2 imposed the following sentences to be served concurrently. Counts of crimes against humanity. 20 years for various acts of persecution, including the killing of Osman Besic and Edin Besic. Then, 10 years for the beatings and other violences inflicted on Emir Beganovic, Senad Muslimovic, Emir Karabasic, Yasmin Hernic, Enver Alic, and Fikret Harambasic. Then, 7 years for the beating of Sefik Sivac. Then, 7 years for the beating inflicted on Hakia Elezovic, Salih Elezovic, and Seyad Sivac. Then, 7 years for the beatings of Haze Icic and other prisoners. Then, 10 years for the beatings inflicted on a number of men during their deportation from the villages of Yaskici and Sivci. Then there are more information on an internet address here. Counts of violations of the laws and customs of war. 9 years for the beatings and other violences inflicted on Emir Beganovic, Senad Muslimovic, Emir Karabasic, Yasmin Hernic, Enver Alic, and Fikret Harambasic. Then, 6 years for the beating of Sefik Sivac. Then, 6 years for the beatings inflicted on Hakia Elezovic. Salih Elezovic, and Seyad Sivac. Then, 6 years for the beatings of Haze İçiç and other prisoners. Then, 9 years for the beatings inflicted on a number of men during their deportation from the villages of Yaskici and Sivci. Minimum term recommendation and credit for time served. Except in extreme circumstances, the sentence of Dusko Tadic should not be commuted or otherwise reduced to a term of imprisonment less than 10 years from the date of determination of any appeal. Dusko Tadic is entitled to credit for 2 years, 8 months, and 6 days of time already served at the date of his sentencing. The time he may serve pending the determination of any appeal will also be credited. The enforcement. Trial Chamber 2 directed the registrar to submit a list of states who have indicated their willingness to accept convicted persons. It will then consult with the parties as to the state in which Dusko Tadic should serve his sentence and will select a state. It will eventually order the registrar to make appropriate arrangements for the transfer of the prisoner to the selected state. This order will be suspended until such a time as the appeals chamber has considered and determined the appeals of the parties. Reminder: both the defense and the prosecution have appealed against the 7 May verdict on 23 and 6 June respectively. In brackets, see Press Release 206, 208 and 210, close brackets. Under Rule 108 of the Rules of Procedure and Evidence, a sentencing judgment can also be appealed within 30 days from the date it was pronounced. The appeals chamber in the Tadic case has been composed as follows: Judge Antonio Cassese, in brackets, presiding, Judge Hao Pei Li, Judge Elizabeth Odio Benito, Judge Fuad Riyad, and Judge Mohammed Shahbudin. Attached are excerpts of the sentencing judgment. The full text is available upon request at the Press and Information Office. Excerpts from the sentencing judgment of Dusko Tadic. One introduction. After a short summary of its judgment and opinion of 7 May 1997 and of the pre-sentencing hearing held between Monday 30 June and Friday 40 July, the trial chamber notes that the prosecution recommended a sentence of life imprisonment while the defense submitted that the sentence should not be in excess of 15 years imprisonment. We have considered each of these submissions. Second, sentencing guidelines. In view of the reference in the statute and the rules of procedure and evidence to the general practice regarding prison sentences in the courts of the former Yugoslavia, the trial chamber notes the following: at all material times, capital punishment existed under the SFRY, SFRY penal code, code penal, although it has been abolished by constitutional amendment, penal code although it has been abolished by constitutional amendment in certain former Yugoslav republics other than Bosnia and Herzegovina. Imprisonment was limited to a term of 15 years, or, in cases for which the death penalty was prescribed as an alternative to imprisonment, to a term of 20 years. Then, the law of the former Yugoslavia has been treated as prescribing in the case of each of the offences of which Dusko Tadic has been convicted, sentences ranging from 5 years imprisonment to the death penalty. Then, Articles 41 in brackets 1, close brackets, 42 and 43 of the SFRY Penal Code, setting forth the various factors to be taken into account in determining sentences, such as the degree of criminal responsibility, the motives for the commission of the offences or the perpetrator's past life, and the instances of mitigation have been considered. Under Article 24 in brackets 2, close brackets, of the statute, the trial chamber has taken into account such factors as the gravity of the offence and the individual circumstances of the accused, together with other matters of mitigation and aggravation used in courts around the world as have appeared appropriate. The trial chamber has considered penalties imposed for crimes against humanity by international and national military tribunals and under national laws. 3. or third part of the excerpts of the sentencing of Dusko Tadic. Circumstances relevant to each of the crimes. Turning to each of the counts of the indictment of which Dusko Tadic has been found guilty, the trial chamber has examined the circumstances of the offences and the role of Dusko Tadic with regard to each of the victims more. I will divide also this text into into 2 videos. In the next video, I will read counts of cruel treatment and inhuman acts.